got another story yesterday. This one was sent to me from one of my subscribers. But this time his significant other is the attorney. In this story, me personally, I spent 13 years in the military. I had a girlfriend before going off to Desert Storm. But what saved me way back then is I ended the relationship with the woman I was seeing. I was gone for 8 months to make a long story short. When I came back, she had a boyfriend. Listen to this, the guy she was seeing, I went to school with. I didn't know that until I seen him. You should have seen the look on her face. Now let's get into the story you came here for. I am a 50-year-old nuclear engineer that lives on the East Coast of the United States. I am also a U.S. Navy veteran that served on several Ohio-class nuclear submarines. After college, I entered the U.S. Navy, served almost 8 years and resigned my commission and went to work for a major U.S. electrical power company as a nuclear engineer. During my first year in the Navy, I met Emily at a social function near Kings Bay, Georgia. I spent a lot of my free time with Emily. I decided I wanted to get married. And over time I felt that we were getting closer. Then one day as I was walking away from the sub toward where I kept my vehicle parked, one of the chiefs called out to me. I stopped walking and because I was in a bit of a hurry, told him to walk with me as we approached my car. He said, "Sir, there is no easy way to say this. But your girl is a pass-on." I would have trusted this man with my life. But right then I wanted to push his teeth down his throat. He saw that I was angry and dropped the subject and walked away. Later that day, I came across that chief and he looked at me and said he was sorry but respected me too much to not warn me about Emily. It turned out he overheard a conversation between 2 officers talking about Emily and felt the need to let me know. At this time, I was a Lieutenant JG and these officers were lieutenants, 1 rank above me. I caught them at different times, but they told me the same story when asked why they did not tell me. I was told they did not think it was any of their business. To this day, I still respect that chief. And from time to time call him and we talk some. I have no respect for those 2 officers. I confronted Emily and she said she was a free spirit that would never marry. So I cut Emily out of my life. I have no idea whatever happened to her. Then I met and married Pio. Pia was born in France. But by the time I met her, she was a legal resident of the United States. Pia was 5 years younger than I was getting married and life in the Navy was starting to worry me. So I resigned my commission. Then Pia and I moved to where I live today. I also got a very good job working in a nuclear power plant. Pia got a job working for a general contractor and we bought a home and for almost 10 years all was well and I think both of us were happy. We also had 2 children in those 10 years. Then one day I started to notice Pia starting to seem a little distant, like her mind was not on the family. This was not all the time, but happened enough that I started to become troubled by it. The company was changing some of its computer systems and I was sent to another city for 2 weeks to be trained by the contractor on how to operate these new systems. I tried to call Pia every night. She was not home. Some nights I called a neighbor one night and he said her car was in the driveway in that hotel room, almost 1,000 miles from home. I sit and wondered if this was the end of my marriage. The mental images going through my head put me into such a state of mind. I was not able to keep up with the material I was being taught. One of the people teaching stopped me one day and asked what was going on. I laid it all out on the line. I was almost in tears and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Pat, I got you. We are almost finished anyway. And when these systems go online, I will be there to help you." So in a few days, I was home. I went to pick up the kids at their daycare and took them home and made them some lunch. We watched TV and had fun most of that afternoon. Then Pia came home angry that I picked up the kids. I also noticed had cut her hair. She was still beautiful, but it just shocked me that she would cut her hair like that. I then reminded Pia, these were my kids too, and to back off with the attitude. Pia started to get really pissy that day. So I left and drove to a small burger joint several miles away that served beer. I was watching the TV, eating a burger. When a good friend came in, he sat down next to me and said, "I seen your car." So I stopped when he said that after all the crap I went through with Pia, I developed a feeling that somebody had just stepped on my grave. I think I was also a bit dizzy. He told me that after I left, his daughter told him that a friend of hers said that she had been hired to babysit my kids overnight for almost a week. So that next day on my way to work, I stopped by the daycare center and asked if my kids had been there. The lady that ran the place said yes, they had. So that day at work, I figured that the kids were at daycare during the day. And with that girl overnight, I later learned she was dropping them off on the way to school. I was livid. Thankfully, Pia was not around. When I learned this, I drove home and packed a suitcase and stayed in an extended stay hotel. Then one day security called me to tell me that Pia was at the main entrance and was asking where I was. I told them to ask if there was anything wrong with my kids. They called me back and said, no, she was just wanting to talk. I told security to trespass her. And if she doesn't leave to call the cops. I knew I was going to need an attorney. But at this time, I had no proof of anything. However, I did trust my gut, and my gut was telling me something was foul. After work, I saw a note lying on my car seat since Pia had keys. I knew it was from her. That note was the first of many attempts to gaslight me and throw all the blame on me. I took 2 days off work. I did go see my kids at daycare. I was looking for a place to live and see an attorney. She opened her Rolodex and gave me the names of 5 private investigators that work in the area, and all of them were very good. I hired one of the private investigators and he told me to relax, to go back home, because as long as I was not there, Pia might not be doing anything. So I sucked up my pride and returned home. Pia demanded I apologize to her. I just went to bed. The next morning, Pia was eating breakfast with the kids but had not put a plate down for me. So I just walked back to the bedroom, finished getting ready for work and left. Put me through hell for the next 3 weeks. Then one day the private investigator called me and wanted me to come to his home office. When I got there, he told me to sit down. Then just before he hit play, told me that I did not need to see this evidence. He could just send it to my attorney. He cautioned me that people who watch videos of their mates cheating will live with those images for the rest of their lives. I asked him if he had some photos and he did. The photos were of P with another man. I decided I did not want to see those videos. He said the attorney will have them. By the end of that day, by this time had noticed a large bank withdrawal and was asking what I did with the money. I just ignored her and went to sleep in our extra bedroom. A week later, I would spend my last night in that house. It took almost a week, but my attorney filed for divorce on the grounds of adultery and had served at work the day she was served. And by the time she was served, I had already split our money at the bank and moved all my things out of the house. Even after being served, P was still gaslighting me. She hired an attorney. It's funny when you hear stories about wives cheating. The husbands always know who the AP is and know most everything. At some point that private investigator did such a great job of convincing me to not follow that rabbit hole. I knew better. So honestly, by the time of our hearing, I only knew the P's name. His name was Mick and he worked for an investment business. He was worth a lot of money. The more my attorney delved into the case, the more I noticed P had grown quiet several times. I saw her put her hand on her mouth. I think she did not know how much we knew. The hearing took about 45 minutes. And the judge granted my divorce on grounds of adultery. Pia was ordered to move out of the house or buy me out of my half. I was also awarded primary custody of the kids. The judge made it 60-40, told us both to work out the holidays. I also got $300 a month in child support. These events happened almost 13 years ago. My kids are teenagers today and we are very close. Pia stopped paying child support. Several years later, I decided to just leave it alone because I was doing okay. 2 years ago, Pia contacted me and wanted to know about the kids traveling with her to France over the Christmas holidays. By this time, Pia owed me thousands in back child support. She had tried several times to get primary custody. The same judge said no. I told Pia that no support means no unsupervised visitation. Mick had dumped her and she lost the house because the bank foreclosed on it. She still lives in a small one-bedroom apartment. Pia also looks like she is in her 60s. Her pride will never allow her to admit she messed up. I told my kids, when you are of age, what you do is your business. I just want you to get an education. Please keep your mother in your life though. Their mother has hurt them, but I have tried to not feed that. They do know what their mother did. I do have all that evidence still.